Where does he rank among FSU's all-time players, considering he helped rebuild also? I got to tell you, I think you can even remove the Heisman. He wouldn't even have to win the Heisman. If this team puts up big numbers and because they have such an emphasis on the run and they have a deep collection of running backs and a depth at offensive line, if their primary way of moving the football is to run the football, and that takes away from Jordan's passing yards in a way that doesn't really allow him to compete with some of the gaudy numbers that a Caleb Williams will put up in Lincoln Riley's offense.
You'll have to.
Okay. So if something like that happens and he's not really a Heisman candidate, let's say, or he just doesn't have the numbers, but he plays exceptionally well and they go 11-1 and win the ACC and then go to the college football playoff. I mean, that alone puts Jordan in an elite group because he's helped bring us back. Is exactly right. You're right, though. Stamping it with a national championship ups the ante, puts you in a group of rarefied individuals. So, yeah, golly, it's tough.
He'd
be a top 10 all time.
Unique quality to his career, because what we saw from some of the players when Jimbo was, obviously leading the way recruiting as the head coach in waiting, they changed rules and closed loopholes about access to recruits because of some of the successes we had directly. Like, we look at LaMarcus Joyner and Bjorn Werner and Telvin Smith and Timmy Jernigan, and
list goes on and on.
It goes on. Chris Thompson,
Rashad Green.
Some guys that weren't even there to finish the job. We look at them as those transitional guys that deserve all the, praise in the world for helping get us from the lost decade to the national championship. Jordan might be the most organic of any one of those types of players in program history, because what he did, maybe Charlie, you could speak on that better than me, but every one of us, some more than others, Jordan taught a lesson to about what's possible, what can be changed by the time you're 19, 20 years old. Some of us thought there was no chance. Some of us thought he had a good chance, but still he could never be elite. If we get to this level, he will have taught every single Florida State fan a lesson about don't count everybody out. Even when they're
already
in their second
has,
or third year.
He really has.
But to the level that it would go next step to a national championship.
Yeah.
Like, you talk about a one-player embodiment of a shift from the dark days to the pinnacle of the sport. Jordan would be better than even LaMarcus at something like that in terms of his legacy.
He's already, you're right. And he has already done something that now has certainly taught me a lesson. Like, I probably more than anybody else, certainly on staff, was dismissive of Jordan as a passer. I liked Jordan. I thought there was a place for Jordan. There was a use for Jordan at quarterback. We could win with Jordan to a certain degree. But I thought for us to take the next big step, we were going to need a guy that could really throw it on obvious passing downs into tight windows from the pocket. I thought he had to find a way to add that to his game. In my experience, given the evidence we had, I'd never really seen that done. If you're a fairly inaccurate thrower, or that's not what your strength is, you don't end up being really good at it at some point a year later, and he did that. He went from, he's not just, he's appreciably better, but he's better in a way that would have somebody who had never seen him play before. If you told them, look, that kid was a runner first and an average passer, he was a one side of the field kind of guy, and this is all we had. And now he can make all the throws. He's pre-snaps as well as anybody, and he has all those other elements that he already had with the legs. Yeah, I mean, I think most people who watch football would say that that's very surprising. It is. It just doesn't happen. He's an outlier. He is truly an outlier, and good on him, man. It's something to celebrate. I don't ever say any of that with a bit of bitterness. I think it's awesome because Jordan was always likable. Jordan was always a likable kid. He was always a kid who, you liked him for a lot of reasons. He had been largely overlooked. He'd battled through injury. He had a lot of injuries to deal with and maladies and things where you're like, man, is that kid ever going to get healthy? And hell, he wasn't even thought to be the guy by the coaching staff. It's one thing for me, just a guy who does a sports talk show, to give an opinion about what I think a player is. It's a whole nother when you have a quarterback coach and a head coach who also didn't think he was all that unique. Hence the reason they brought in a kid who couldn't move his foot. I mean, they got McKenzie Milton who had one leg. And that they were willing to go a whole nother route because they didn't see it in Jordan. So that is a awesome story. That's a cool turnaround. He's overcome all of that.
And if they were to go on this magical run this year, just think about it from our rivals' perspective. Like, they would say, "Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Your program was dead." And then you found this nothing transfer from Louisville who turns out to be a Heisman winner and a national champion. And that's what brings you back and puts you so far ahead of us again, is like that dude out of thin air. That would just be all the sweeter. If we could finish the job, that would be all the sweeter. That would be that, and not Jameis Winston, the number one quarterback in the country that predictably did what he did. It's this guy out of left field.
Yeah, Jameis, that 2013 season, when we talk about accuracy, arm strength, acumen, I mean, he was unreal. But he was also the number one rated quarterback in the country, and everybody wanted him, like you're saying, because they knew he projects that way. He projects as one of these unicorns, these guys that you see it and you go, whoa, he's going to be awesome. And then it happens. And probably fair to say that Arch Manning's going to be pretty good too. I mean, I'm going to guess that he fulfills his promise of being an accurate, talented, and good passer in college.
What an Everest to climb, though. You've got Texas, which since Vince Young has always disappointed. Even when they got to the Natty title game, Colt McCoy gets hurt, and that made me weep a little bit inside. But they never live up to the expectations. And then here's Arch Manning. So could it be that Texas wins out and there's yet another chapter to the failures of that program? Or is Arch and the Manningness strong enough to overcome all of that? It's a great storyline from the Central Time Zone.
Weird, too, because, by selecting Texas, he has to overcome all that stuff. He could have gone a different route and never had to worry about all that. But yeah,
gone to Alabama.
But I also think that teaches you a little something about who he might be. He's betting on himself. Yeah, he's not real worried about it.
The more I think about the Florida game last year and what Jordan did, the more crazy it is. Like, every time I think about it, I don't know if in the moment we reflected on how much of a Superman he was. And even though we described it as such in the moment.
Yeah, we did.
You think about the NC State loss in that part of the season where there looked to be kind of a disconnect on the sidelines for Wake and NC State. Jordan makes the final mistake, but he didn't make the only mistake in that game. You think about an early fourth down conversion that Johnny just drops right in his breadbasket.
Yes.
We're off and running, and they never catch us in that football game. It never gets to a point where you second guess Jordan Travis' decision-making at the end. Ultimate team game, but we focus on the quarterback. Well, he's failed again by several receivers in the first half of the Florida game. Johnny, Cam, there was at least one other one, and I'm trying to think of who it was. Huge drops. I mean, ridiculous drops. Wide open plays. And he doesn't let that overwhelm him, and he takes over the game to the point where it comes all the way around, hits a deep shot to Malik, hits Johnny on that big third down late in the game, and then Trey Benson ices it with a touchdown. But that effort in that game took maturity and skill in a combination that I don't know that I've seen since I've lived here in Tallahassee. It took all of the skills he had as a thrower, as a runner, and as a mature quarterback in order to win that game pretty much single-handedly on offense.
Yeah, he stayed very calm in the face of overwhelming adversity because we couldn't get a stop.
And he was being failed by his targets left and right.
Yeah.
You could, in that moment, if you're not strong enough, say, wow.
But those are the lessons learned from the 3-game losing streak that he emerged from as a different quarterback and a different person and a different kind of leader. And it's also a testament to that growth that, again, we celebrate what he's become because we've been able to watch these tangible steps forward after setbacks, after frustrations, after moments where you began to doubt, where he could have too. Yeah, I think he has obviously a lot of belief in himself and his talents and his work ethic. It helps to have a brother who was an all-world athlete too, who, became a professional baseball player. I mean, you come from a family of guys that believe in themselves and work hard and put in the effort. They put in the work to be great.
Can't miss prospects out of high school.
Right.
I mean, Devin was a good player. He's at Florida State, but he wasn't thought to be a major leaguer on the level that he was before he got hurt.
And I really wish he hadn't gotten hurt because he was emerging as a everyday player, a good one. And, Yeah. So, Jordan, I said this before. I think if you just looked at him in the combine sense, if you put Jordan Travis at the combine tomorrow, right? He's there. We're all watching the combine. I think there would be a lot of people that would look at his skill set and go, I don't know. He's a smaller, more apt to injury, uh, mobile quarterback that is going to have to, because you can't bottle up that unique skill set that he has. So you're going to want to run him, but can you with that body type? Can you? Okay, let's say you think you can't run him as much as you'd like to, and you can't take advantage of the fact that he can make guys miss in a phone booth because you're worried about injury. Well, is he so uniquely gifted as a passer that you would overlook that aspect? No, he's not. He's a good passer. He's not uniquely gifted as a passer. So all of a sudden, my point is not to tear him down. I think GMs and coaches are going to find a problem with taking Jordan Travis high in the draft as a quarterback in the
Yeah.
NFL.
Yeah, like top 10, that kind of a thing. Sure.
But
sure.
what I've learned with that kid and watching him, and now having been proven very wrong, is don't doubt him. I won't anymore.